At some point, you stop checking your phone for messages, not because you're busy, but because you already know there won't be any. That's the moment nobody talks about. Not when something ends, not when someone leaves, but when you realize your life can collapse quietly and no one would actually notice in time to stop it. You don't say it out loud. You just feel it in your body. The way you always handle things alone. The way you're everyone's backup plan but no one's first call. The way you can sit in a room full of people and still feel unassigned. You are useful, dependable, the one people lean on when they're breaking. You listen, you fix, you hold things together. And somehow, without deciding to, you become the person no one holds. If you fall, there is no soft place waiting, no one whose job it is to catch it. You might have family, you might have coworkers, you might even have someone who says they care. But that doesn't change the pattern. When it's your turn to need something, the room goes quiet. And the disturbing part is, you're used to it. You don't even call it loneliness anymore. It just feels like the structure of your life. You give, you function, you endure, and whatever part of you needed to be seen learned to stay quiet a long time ago. There's a certain stillness that comes from being strong for too long, a certain emotional vacancy that doesn't look dramatic enough for anyone to notice. You know that feeling. If something in you is tightening right now, it's because you recognize this territory. Here's what almost no one admits. Sometimes the feeling of having no one isn't about people at all. It's what happens when the version of you that was built to survive stops fitting the life you're actually in. When old roles stop working. When old connections can't reach you anymore. When something deeper starts pulling things apart without asking for permission. From the outside, it looks like isolation. From the inside, it feels like your entire foundation is being quietly dismantled, not to punish you, but to see what's left when there's no one left to lean on. There is a specific kind of quiet that doesn't belong to the room. It belongs to you. It shows up when the day is over and nothing is wrong, but nothing feels held either. When the phone stays dark, when the noise of the world fades and you're left with the strange awareness that your life is heavier than anyone around you seems to notice. You still move through your routines. You still answer people. You still do what needs to be done. From the outside, you look intact. But inside, it feels like you're carrying a version of yourself that has never been properly received anywhere. You notice it in small moments, when something good happens and there's no one whose reaction you're waiting for. When something bad happens and you already know you'll deal with it alone. When you're in conversation, but somehow not inside it. It's not that there are no people. It's that none of them are standing in the place where your real life is happening. You can be surrounded and still feel unaccompanied. You can be known and still feel untranslated. There is a tiredness that comes from that, not physical, structural, the kind that settles into how you exist. So you begin adjusting yourself. You simplify your thoughts before you say them. You flatten your reactions. You keep the deeper parts private, not because you're mysterious, but because you're tired of watching them land nowhere. Eventually, you stop trying to arrive fully. And then, without ceremony, you realize something. There is no place in your life where you are allowed to fall apart. You are the one people come to, the steady one, the one who stays calm, the one who listens without turning it into a performance, the one who absorbs tension and makes it manageable. But there is no equal and opposite force in your world. No one whose attention naturally moves toward your internal weather. No one whose instinct is to notice the subtle changes in your voice. No one whose role is to hold what you've been holding for everyone else. So you keep functioning, and over time, functioning becomes your identity. There is a quiet brutality in being valued only for what you can carry. At first, it feels like meaning, like purpose, like strength. But slowly, something inside you keeps getting postponed. There's a room in you that stays locked. Not because it's empty, because no one ever learned how to enter it. Eventually, even you stop visiting. You start using the same voice the world used on you. Don't be dramatic. Other people have it worse. Just get through it. You're fine, so you become fine. And a little further away from yourself every year. This is how a person can disappear without leaving their life. The strange part is how normal it begins to feel. You don't call it loneliness. You call it independence. You call it being low maintenance. You call it not wanting to be a burden. But your body knows the difference. It shows up as a constant low-level tension, a background fatigue, a sense that even on quiet days, something in you is braced. You might not remember when it started. Maybe it began the first time you realized needing things made people uncomfortable. Maybe it started when being capable got you more approval than being honest. Maybe it formed when you learned that being easy was safer than being real. So you adapted. And adaptation is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It rearranges you slowly until surviving costs less than being present. You become someone who can handle everything, which is another way of saying no one is assigned to handle you. At some point, a more unsettling realization appears. You don't just feel unsupported. You feel like your inner life is happening in a language no one around you speaks. You could try to translate it, but you already know how that goes. The polite nods, the rushed solutions, the gentle change of subject. So you stop trying? And this is where something deeper starts shifting. When a part of you stays unseen for too long, it doesn't vanish. It withdraws. It becomes quieter, heavier, harder to access. You start overriding your own signals. You negotiate with your own exhaustion. You explain away your own sadness. You speak to yourself the way you were spoken to. Be reasonable. Keep moving. Don't make it a problem. And you do. You keep moving, but you are not being accompanied. There is a difference between being alive and being inhabited. A life can work and still feel empty in a very specific way. And that's when another kind of absence starts to form. Not the absence of people, the absence of yourself. You might not have words for it. It just feels like a slow draining of color. Like you're watching your own life from a few inches behind your eyes. Then something begins to change. Not dramatically, not all at once, but the old structures stop fitting. The roles you built your life around start feeling hollow. The connections that once felt sufficient no longer reach where you actually live. It feels like standing in a house that's quietly being taken apart from the inside. From the outside, it looks like isolation. From the inside, it feels like the foundations are shifting without your consent, and you don't yet know what's being built in their place. At first, you assume the problem is the world, the wrong people, the wrong environment, the wrong timing. It feels reasonable. But then you notice something that doesn't fit that explanation. Even when someone is there, you still feel alone. Even when you're understood in conversation, something deeper remains untouched. And that's when a more dangerous thought begins to surface. What if the distance isn't only outside? What if part of you learned a long time ago not to fully arrive anywhere? Not because you're broken, because at some point it was necessary. If you were valued for what you provided instead of what you felt, you learned something early. You learned to be useful. You learned to be composed. You learned to be the person who doesn't need much. And you learned to keep your own needs very quiet. You didn't choose this consciously. Your nervous system chose it. To keep things stable. Over time, people begin to know you as a function. The reliable one, the strong one, the one who always manages. Functions are comfortable for other people. They're predictable. They don't disrupt anything. They don't require emotional risk. But a function is not a relationship. It's a position. And when you live too long as a position, something strange happens. People stop imagining you as fragile, not because you aren't, because you train the world not to look there. So when your internal life starts collapsing quietly, nothing in your environment reacts. They assume you're fine. You always are. And you watch this with a mixture of resentment and embarrassment. Resentment because no one notices. Embarrassment because part of you wants them to. So you keep carrying everything yourself. And carrying everything yourself starts to feel like character. Reaching out begins to feel unnatural, exposing, almost inappropriate. Needing was never safe. So you learn to survive without it. But something in you is changing now. The old structure is cracking. The one that said, I hold everything. I am not held. You can feel it in the way your patience is thinner, the way your exhaustion is deeper, the way your inner world is less willing to be ignored. And beneath all of that, a quieter truth is forming. You cannot keep living as a role inside your own life. There is a version of you that has been delayed for years, not destroyed, delayed, waiting behind the personality you built to function. And when that version starts pressing forward, everything organized around the old version begins to destabilize. This is why this phase feels so disorienting. It's not just that you feel alone. It's that your life no longer matches the person you're becoming. And the person you're becoming doesn't have a life yet. So you're standing in between. No longer who you were, not yet who you are. That in-between space feels like floating without coordinates. Old connections don't reach you. Old habits don't comfort you. Old explanations don't work. But in that emptiness, something else begins to happen. Your attention starts turning inward in a new way. Not in a comforting way, in a clarifying way. You begin noticing what actually depletes you, what actually steadies you, what feels false, what feels quietly accurate. Your life becomes smaller in some places, quieter, more selective, less performative. From the outside, it might look like withdrawal. From the inside, it feels like alignment. You start being drawn to things that make no sense to anyone else. A certain kind of silence, a certain kind of work, a certain way of living. Not because it looks good, because it feels like breathing. And slowly, your energy changes, not louder, more rooted. You stop scattering yourself into spaces that cannot hold you. You stop trying to be understood by people who only know how to understand a role. And as this happens, the world begins responding in subtle ways, not dramatically. In small, precise shifts, you find words that articulate what you've been living. You encounter minds that recognize your inner terrain. You notice opportunities that seem to appear exactly where you've been turning. Not miracles. Reflections. Your inner posture changes, and the outer world adjusts around it. Not to make you comfortable, to make you coherent. You may still be alone for a while, but it's a different kind of alone. Not the abandoned kind. The kind that comes from standing on ground you're still learning how to inhabit. And that changes the question. It's no longer, why is no one here? It becomes something much more unsettling. What kind of life have you been postponing until you no longer had to live as a function instead of a person? If you're still here, still listening, there's probably a familiar weight sitting somewhere in your chest. Not sharp, not dramatic, just present. The kind that shows up when you realize you've been carrying more of your life alone than anyone ever noticed. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, or that it's noble, or that it all happens for a reason. Sometimes it just is what it is. A long season of holding yourself together in rooms that don't quite hold you back. If tonight feels heavier than usual, let it be heavy. You don't have to translate it into strength. You don't have to make it productive. You don't have to turn it into a lesson. Some nights are only meant to be survived honestly. But somewhere inside that quiet, I want you to notice something small. Not loud, not heroic, just real. The fact that you're still here. The fact that you stayed with this until the end. The fact that some part of you hasn't checked out, even if you're tired of pretending you're fine. That part matters more than it gets credit for. Maybe, before you close this, you let yourself ask one gentle question. Not about your whole future, not about fixing your life, just about tomorrow, or the next few days. What would it look like to treat your own existence a little less like an obligation and a little more like something that deserves to be inhabited? Not in a big way, not in a way anyone else would notice. In a private way, a quieter bedtime. One honest sentence written somewhere no one will read. One small boundary, one small reach, one small moment where you don't disappear from yourself. These things rarely look impressive, but they change the internal climate. And over time, that changes everything else. If you feel like leaving a trace here, go to the comments and write a few words about what you're carrying right now, or what you're choosing not to abandon in yourself. You can add the city you're in too, not as a label, just as a reminder that this quiet struggle doesn't only exist in one room, one country, one life. Sometimes it helps to see that in plain text. And if this video felt like it touched something that usually stays unspoken, you can let that be known in a simple way. You can leave a like. You can stay connected by subscribing. Not because you owe anything, only if this space feels like one of the few places where your inner world doesn't have to perform. And maybe there's someone in your life who wouldn't send a message asking for help, but would recognize themselves in this. You don't have to explain anything. You can just pass this along and let it speak in its own language. Before you go, remember this. You may feel unaccompanied right now. You may feel like your life is being carried in silence, but the part of you that kept going, that kept listening, that didn't fully disappear into numbness, that part is not random. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's still choosing. And one day, you're going to look back at this stretch of time and understand something very specific. Not that it made you stronger, but that you stayed, and that staying quietly changed the shape of your life.